My presentation is called To Infinity and Beyond, Making a Home on the Red Planet. Just to start out, just a picture of Buzz Lightyear, we all know him, and his famous catchphrase, To Infinity and Beyond. And when I was thinking about topics for my essay, I thought of like a topic of space and Mars, because that's something I'm interested in. So I wanted to explore if his catchphrase was something that us humans can apply in our own lives. So my topic is the colonization of Mars a worthy pursuit? Just some background on the subject. So first off, the curiosity and the mystery of space. For centuries, scientists have been exploring mysteries and solving them on our own Earth, and space is one of the ones that they haven't really been able to crack as of yet. And so this has really been a drive for scientists to try and solve this problem, Mars being one of the leading causes. All right, humans landing on the Mars in 1969, we all know, July 20th. Neil Armstrong and his crew were the first people to land on the moon. And this is like a big step in travel and colonization, possibly, because we know that humans can actually get out there. And then lastly, there was evidence of water on Mars found in 2012. And this was found on both the north and south poles of Mars, because these are mainly ice. And so we have that water supply. There was also evidence of water buried underneath Mars's surface. So based on those two sources, we have water on Mars, and that's something that we need to live, so we can possibly consider colonizing. All right, we're gonna start with the so-called Earth lovers, as I'll call them in our presentation. These are the people that do not support the colonization of Mars and rather stay on Earth. And through my research, I found that they have three main arguments. First, the physical risks. Second, the mental and psychological risks. And third, the finances involved. So we'll start with the physical risks. First one, different gravity. Obviously, Mars is a different planet than Earth, and as such, it's going to have a different gravity. Just to put it in kind of perspective, if you had something that weighed 100 pounds on Earth, if you put that on Mars, it would only weigh 38 pounds. So this would be, this would have effects on physical humans because it changes our weight and it changes proportions and everything. Second, Mars has a harsh atmosphere, and Mars is a very cold planet. Average temperatures being 80 below zero, and that's just the average. It can get to anywhere like negative 160 on the poles. And Mars is also known for these really violent dust storms. And if you look at this picture, these pictures were taken by the Hubble Space Telescope. So this first one was taken June 26, 2001. This was the start of one of these dust storms, and you can see it kind of forming up here on the pole. And then it took another picture of Mars just a little over 2 months later, and as you can see, the whole planet is all clouded and dusty. So these storms are very violent and can sometimes be global. It's something we have to be aware of if we're ever to go out there. All right, next, the mental and psychological risks. Here's a quote from one of my sources. There's always the question of how humans will react psychologically to life in a confined habitat in such an alien environment. And this quote brings up a couple of good things. So the isolation from Earth is the first one. So based on their orbits, the closest that Mars and Earth can be is 33.9 million miles. And that's pretty far. And it's something that if humans were to be put on there, they'd be 33.9 million miles away from other humans, and loneliness can factor into that. Another thing is it'll be a one-way trip because scientists don't have like the technology yet to be able to send people to Mars and then get those same rockets with fuel back. But then again, the extent is unknown of this problem because we don't have humans on Mars. So it's just something that if we do, we'll just have to take it as it comes. The last one, probably the biggest one, is finances. Another quote. Every time NASA has pondered manned missions to Mars, the price has been several times the $150 billion, more or less, spent on the Apollo program to the moon and back. It's a lot of money, obviously. And then most all of the funding for NASA and their organizations comes from the government officials and their organizations. And we have to consider if they have that type of money to spend on multiple manned missions to Mars, and frankly they don't. We're already billions of dollars and trillions of dollars into debt. And I don't think, or these people that argue this don't think that they have enough finances to spend in the moment. Well, something to consider, if we go off that $150 billion, for the Apollo missions, we can get a very, very generalized estimate of what one manned mission to Mars would cost, and it ends up being approximately $818 billion to send one manned mission to Mars, based on the technology back then, based on the economy, based on everything that was going on during the time of the Apollo missions, but it is something to consider based on that. All right, next we have the Mars hopefuls. These are the people that support the colonization of Mars and think it's a good idea. And I found through our research that they also have 3 solid arguments. One is Mars' similarity to Earth. Second, the continued developments and the curiosity involved. And the third one is something called terraforming. So the similarity to Earth, another quote from Buzz Aldrin: "Mars is the most Earth-like planet in our solar system, besides Earth, of course." And we can see this because of some evident things that we can find on Mars through probes and through telescopes. There is water on Mars. Mars does have soil. It has minerals and metals found within that soil. It has an atmosphere, so as such it has air, and it does have gravity. And all these things are vital to human survival, whether or not we notice them really or not. And luckily for us, they're all available on Mars if we were to ever consider colonizing. Okay, continued developments and curiosity. So I have a picture. This is one of the pictures I'm going to use in my thing. So it's called Journey to Mars. It was released by NASA. And basically have these 3 main arrows that branch out from Earth: science, exploration, and technology. These are like the things that drive space travel. And you can see they make their way gradually toward Mars, with all of these things making their own little arrow connecting to these ones. And this just shows that we have pretty much what we need to get to Mars. We just need to apply it and get there. Some of these things: the Hubble telescope, a big discovery, big invention based on space travel. Another one, International Space Station. We have orbiters and landers if we were ever to go on Mars. Those were used on the moon. And we can see just that this further improvises, or further initiates our things to get to Mars. All right, last one. So it's a process called terraforming. And terraforming isn't really a familiar topic for most of us. Terraforming is defined as the physical change of a planet or other celestial body, most commonly through climate or atmospheric changes, to make it more Earth-like. If we look at the roots of the word, terra means earth and forming means changing, thus resulting in a literal definition of earth changing. And I'm going to play a little bit of this video to explain what terraforming is and how we would do it on Mars, more importantly.
In fact, there is an easier way, and we've been practicing it on Earth for the past 150 years.
We know how to warm up planets. We're demonstrating that we know how to do that right here on Earth, where it's probably not a good idea.
By burning fossil fuels, the carbon remains of ancient plants. We're pumping out carbon dioxide faster than the Earth can take it back in. In the process, we're increasing the ability of our atmosphere to trap heat from the sun. And we're seeing the kinds of results that terraformers would like to see on Mars.
Warming up planets is something we know how to do. We would do exactly on Mars what we're doing on Earth. We're going to have to set up literally little factories on Mars.
All right, so some analysis of the video. So it mentions burning of fossil fuels, and we can find through the probes that have been sent on Mars, there are some major fossil fuels that are found in the surface of Mars, such as sulfur and fluoride. And these are considered super greenhouse gases, which means if we burn them, if we get enough heat to burn them, they release the most carbon dioxide. And so the way that we would terraform Mars is we would set up these little factories, and we would harvest this sulfur and fluoride mainly from Mars' surface, and then we would burn them and release the carbon dioxide in the air. That's what we're doing on Earth. We're burning fossil fuels, and we're creating carbon dioxide. It's released in the atmosphere, and carbon dioxide is able to trap the heat from the sun. And so we would do that on Mars, where it's very cold, and we would try to heat up Mars. Obviously, Mars is a big planet, so it would take a long time. But if we got enough carbon dioxide, we could physically change the atmosphere and make Mars a warmer planet. All right, so my opinion solutions in conclusion. In my opinion, I believe that the idea of colonizing Mars is a good one and that should be highly considered, but not now, because we don't really have the finances. We need more time to get those finances. We need more time to improve our technology so that our trip to Mars will be a safer one and a more efficient one. But I do believe that steps are being taken in the right direction towards this subject, and I believe that science is doing all they can, and I believe that they will continue to do so as time and funds allow. So, some possible solutions I've come up with. The first one, we can go to Mars in the very near future with what we have, and just kind of like wing it with the finances, because we obviously have all we need based on that picture. We just need to put it into plan and go. Another solution, one that I think would be better, is to wait a little longer for both the finances and the technology to improve, just so we can make it more of a efficient and safe trip. So, conclusion, I've found through my research though, this is more of like a personal opinion between people. So you'd have to make your own decision on this matter, but you have to be prepared to embrace the fact that sometime in the future, the colonization of Mars is going to be a bigger issue, and that it is coming, and we just have to be prepared for that because science is improving and technology improving, and it's something that is a very possible thing in the future.
Thank you, Luke.
And that's it.